Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first quarter 2021 already meeting of the Iowa Community Theater Association. I will pull up the agenda here real quick and we'll walk through that and then we'll get started with our business. Okay, you all received the agenda via email this time around. Did anybody have issues accessing the meeting packet in our Google Drive?
No.
Fantastic. That saves everyone's inbox. Okay, so today we will run through our procedural business, our committee reports, and old and new business. I have received one item of new business via email from Loeen, which is discussing the newsletter. Does anyone have any old or new business to append to the agenda today? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed. First up, we have our strategic plan review. As you all remember, we did a strategic plan review in February of 2020, and then the world went to heck in a handbasket, and we have put that off until now. So this is mostly a touch base today in order to just reorient ourselves with the strategic plan and hopefully pick that up and move forward. I'm going to clear these cells here. All right. So as we remember, we have our initiatives along the top here, our assigned resources on the board, and then the metrics to match those initiatives, as well as our objectives by December of 2024, which is a 5-year plan. Additionally, off to the left, we have our 2 strategies. And so we will just walk through this and the assigned folks there to talk about it in brief. Okay, Tammy's not with us, so we will skip that for today, unless anyone knows anything about the Prodigy membership. Man, you're all so quiet today. I know that she had created a program and sent it out for folks to review. I will have her resend that and we can pick that back up and start reviewing. The next initiative is considering youth theater in all relationships. These are community initiatives, and those are just something that we keep front of mind in everything that we do. So we'll mark that green. Regional workshops and sponsored underrepresented groups presenting at festival and convention. Cheryl Clark, these belong to you. An update for us?
Yes, I plan to have, as part of the annual meeting time, we'll plan to have a discussion about about the regional structure, because as an organization, we've not really shared that with our membership. And I would like to, we'll talk a bit in a bit about the specifics of the convention agenda, but I would like to build in time where we could actually meet in some breakout rooms within our regions and talk about launching, or what would be some ideas for when we might launch some regional workshops. So that discussion might come in a bit later. Underrepresented groups at convention. One of our workshop topics is on programming for youth in this period of pandemic. So that is part of the current plan.
Okay.
I'm done.
Thank you, Cheryl. Does anyone have questions for Cheryl? No. Okay, moving along. Next is identifying high school associations that focus on the arts and align with board members. Aaron, I believe this one belongs to you.
Yeah, so the 3 that I've identified so far would be the Iowa High School Speech Association, the Iowa Thespians, and the Iowa High School Musical Theater Awards. it is still not totally clear to me exactly how we could interface with them. I did send an email to the Thespians and I never heard anything back from them. That was the one group that I tried to contact until it was before we decided that we were suspending our work on this a little bit. And the Speech Association is particularly in upheaval this year, trying to figure out how to do what it does in a normal year, in a year that's just not normal. So I feel it would be best to probably wait to reach out to them in particular until individual speech season has ended, which will be mid-March, late March. So sometime in April might be ideal time to talk to them. And I can't really, so the High School Musical Theater Awards are like part of are under an umbrella of a larger organization. The Des Moines Performing Arts Center, I think.
That's correct. Yes, the Civic Center.
Yeah. So contacting them and whether or not that specific, yeah, it's there's more thinking to be done about that. But those are the three groups that I've identified so far.
I was going to say, I can help you there with that one, Aaron. Although I know that right now they're fighting so much publicity and press and struggles with COVID that they are trying to do something, but it's very virtual. And I don't know if working with us would be something they're prepared to do this year. But I can definitely make that contact and reach out for you.
Great.
Okay. So would you say that's green then, Aaron, or yellow?
It depends on, like, I mean, I feel like the pandemic probably shifts our pacing a little bit.
Right.
I would say that we're still green there as long as we acknowledge that some of this is going to have to happen once the world goes back to normal a little bit for these organizations to feel like they can have a conversation about anything other than their survival and basic function.
Sure. Sure. Makes perfect sense. Thank you. The next two items are mine, and that is awaiting our rebranding efforts that kicks off this afternoon at 2 p.m. But I won't steal David's thunder there. But I've got the tools identified, so it's just a matter of branding it and turning it on. Tammy is not here with non-member theaters. She's done that work. Cheryl Clark, 2 to 3 regional workshops semi-annually.
Again, we've been on hold with that since we didn't get to have our convention last year. So I still think we're green. We're probably going to see that happen a year later than we had anticipated originally.
Sure, that makes sense. Maintaining quarterly touch points with our members, Gerard.
I have not done anything with this.
Would you rate that a green or a yellow?
Yellow.
Okay.
Just because nothing's going on.
Perfect, thank you. Next up is attending board meetings of our member theaters, sharing our strategic plan. Mel, this one is yours. I'm going to guess that hasn't happened because of COVID.
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
With the COVID.
Yep, makes sense. And again, we're just kind of realigning ourselves today to the plan, so that's all right. Naming liaisons for each member theaters. Gerard, that is in your wheelhouse. Has that happened yet?
No, that has not happened.
Okay. And finally, establishing Iowa regions and aligning board members with member theaters. I know that there's a map that has floated around. John, do you have any other updates on this?
No other updates.
Okay, rated a green or yellow?
Probably yellow.
Great. All right. Save this.
And I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but is there a possibility that we could do that? Assign which board members are going to be which theaters before our event on the 27th of March, because then the regional reps could go into the breakout rooms with the regional theaters and begin to establish the relationships we hope they have.
Yeah, certainly. I think there was a draft of that on a hand-drawn map that I had seen, and I don't remember who I had seen that from. So, yeah,
I
I think,
think I might actually be the one in possession of that somewhere
Okay.
in my file,
and
so
it's,
I could share that.
okay, and it's probably in our shared drive as well. Hi there, Loeen, welcome. Okay, thank you folks for the strategic plan review. Look for this to start happening more throughout 2021 as we go along. So thank you for taking the time to do that today. Give me just a second here. Next up, we have the previous meetings minutes. Let me pull those up for folks. This is from our November 14th, 2020 meeting. And are there any additions or corrections to those minutes that people saw? And I'm just scrolling slowly so that folks can pause the video should they be reviewing the board meeting after the fact. Okay. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Mel moves. Is there a second?
Tracy,
A second.
second.
We'll give that one to Tracy. Any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of approving the November 14th, 2020 board minutes of the Iowa Community Theater Association signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you, folks. I'll get those up on the website after the meeting. Next up, we have the treasurer's report. And Gerard, I have those available to share if you'd like, or you're welcome to share your screen as well.
No, that'd be great if you can share them.
Certainly.
We've had a few people go ahead and renew. Really not a huge change in our financial position from the prior quarter. The question I would have is, do we want to go ahead and recognize the dues that were paid in 2019 for new theaters, or go ahead and hold those off until 2021? It doesn't change any of our cash position. It just recognizes that income into this year. Although technically everything from last year rolled forward, so logically we could just hold that until 2022. So in my opinion, we can do either one, not going to really affect us. Anybody have any desire to do one over the other?
I think we should just hold it over since nothing's really gonna happen this year.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah. The only question I would have, will it affect if we look back in 3 to 5 years, will we look at it, will it affect our history and in comparison what happened one year? Or are we all pretty sure that in the lifetime that we all have, we're never going to forget 2020?
I think it's like Pearl Harbor and 9/11. I don't think we're going to forget 2020.
Yeah.
But yes, it definitely will affect trends. But it's something that's easily explainable.
Right.
And also the board minutes would reflect. I can also throw a note into Wave, which is our accounting system, and put down that since 2021 was a carryover from 2020, that these will be recognized in 2022.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
like the best of all possible worlds.
Sounds like we have consensus on that. Is there any opposition to that plan? No? Okay, well, we'll roll with that for consensus and approve it as part of the treasurer's report. Any questions for Gerard?
Hey Gerard, this is Mel, have I paid my dues?
No, you have not renewed yet.
Okay,
which is
I
an
will get that taken care of.
which is an excellent reminder. You can do that on our website. And this year we have pay what you're able dues. So if the pandemic has been difficult for you, you can visit iowatheaters.org/membership and renew there. It's very easy form to do that. And as a reminder for you all, theaters who were members in 2020 automatically had their membership renewed for 2021 as well. Okay, any other questions for Gerard? Gerard, anything else?
Nope, I think we're all good.
All right, seeing that, I would,
Wait.
Go ahead.
I do want to throw out, in case anybody missed it, if you would bring up the balance sheet, please. So I included the bank screenshot. So if you want to reconcile the checking account, you have to add the Boughton and the ICTA checking together, because I didn't feel like setting up a separate checking account, and I just recorded it that way. So if you add the two numbers together for Donna and ICTA checking, that'll total what the ICTA checking balance is, in case anybody has a question. Otherwise, life is great.
fantastic. Thank you, Gerard. Seeing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
That's Norman. Is there a second?
Second,
We'll give Mel the second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the treasurer's report signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Me?
The motion carries with one abstention. Gerard, if you could note that in the minutes, please, Cheryl. Thank you. Okay, next up is the president's report. Nothing really to report outside of, don't forget that as a board member, you are required to hold membership in the association. So please, if you've not already done so, visit the membership page on our website and either renew electronically, or Gerard's address is there for you to mail him a shiny rectangular check. So please don't forget that. Other than that, I'm glad to see all of you and your bright shining faces. I know some of you have experienced lots of challenges during this time, and so I'm glad that we're still able to gather in this way, and we'll continue to do so until it's safe for us to all gather safely. And I see Loine's question there in the chat. Yes, typically individual dues are $25 in a normal year, but this year it is pay what you're able. Some are paying more, some are paying less, but most are paying 25 that I've seen. So, but it's wonderful to see all of you. I'm so glad that we can gather. Missing those, Pam, Cheryl, Zeringer, and Tammy, but glad that we're all here. So that being said, does anyone have any questions for me? Yes, Helen.
What is the theater membership?
Theater memberships are typically $50, but anybody who was a member in 2020 has had their membership renewed. Sorry, any member theater in 2020 has had their membership automatically renewed for 2021, which was business that we passed at the November meeting.
Is the membership listed on the website in terms of when dues are required or when fees are to be paid?
So we have let me pull up our website here. We do have a listing of folks that, give me 1 second. And I'll share my screen. And if you go to the theaters tab on our website, these are current member theaters. And so these are all folks that have their memberships most likely paid in 2020 and have had those roll through 2021. So you can find that on our website. Oh, I'm not sharing. Technology. You'd think a year in I'd have zoomed down by now. But you can see here on our website, it's a list of member theaters. And I refresh that every couple of months or so as we get stuff rolling, because things tend to come in spurts. I have a batch to process this weekend from Gerard over the last couple of weeks. So if you don't see your theater here, reach out to Gerard and I, and we can figure out what's going on there. If you were members in 2020, that is. Good question, Helen. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, it's wonderful to be together again. So we'll continue moving on down the agenda. Next up, we have committee reports. First is awards. John sent a report. John, the floor is yours, sir.
All right. Let me see here. All right. We have a couple ideas. One, we know that from a previous meeting that we discussed about honoring those productions that were able to be reviewed in 2020 before COVID hit. We discussed as a group that we would, rather than providing an individual certificate to each person that was nominated, we decided that it might just be better to nominate or recognize the production and the host theater versus every single person that was nominated. Another idea that was floated around was to have all the theaters submit a 1 to 3 minute video presentation to highlight what they've been able to do to keep the arts active in their respective theater. I'm not sure if we would have time to get that accomplished before our convention / festival, whatever we're going to be calling it. But that was an idea that we had on how to encompass the other theaters that have been able to continue to do things safely. We know that there have been some theaters that have performed, and unfortunately there have been some issues with COVID, but there have been several theaters that have been able to do things safely and keep the arts active in their respective communities. So we were trying to think of what is a way to highlight those theaters as well, versus also thanking those productions that were able to get off the ground before everything came to a halt back in March of 2020. So we just came to we just thought we would bring that to the board and get their input as well.
Okay, thank you, John. Are you looking to make a motion today?
I think in respect to what we might want to accomplish for convention, we probably do need to have at least some direction from the board. So yeah, probably a motion.
Okay, would you like to wait until new business for that, or do you want to pick it up now?
Yeah, no, new business is fine.
Okay, fantastic. Are there any other questions for John? Quiet group today. Seeing none, we'll move along. Thank you, John, and we will, oh, yeah, Loeen, go ahead.
The awards from last season, when will those be awarded then, and how?
They're stored safely at my house at the moment. And we discussed when we did our presentation that we will get those out when it's safe for our board members to go out to those theaters, and we'll distribute that way. Not sure when that will be, but hopefully sooner than later.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for John?
My apologies for jumping in, but is somebody playing big band music in the background? Although it's quite nice, it's a little distracting. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Friendly reminder that if you're not currently speaking, please utilize your mute feature so that we don't run into each other all the time. So thank you. Okay, any further questions for John? I see we're joined by a cat today. How delightful. We'll continue on down the agenda. Next up is Cheryl Clark, the events committee. The floor is yours, ma'am.
I didn't send in a report. Like other folks, my life has been rather challenging the past few months, and so I didn't have time to get the committee together. We've shared some information on email, and I have a proposed plan for convention that we will talk about as a new business item. You're muted, Jason.
Thank you. Apparently, I've forgotten how to use Zoom today. Thank you, Cheryl. Are there any questions for Cheryl before we move on? Nope, seeing none, we'll continue institutional review. I believe we put that to bed at the last meeting, but just wanted to check in to see if there's anything else that has come up in the interim.
No, nothing new to report.
Fantastic, thank you. Next up, marketing. David, the floor is yours, sir.
I have a meeting today at 2 o'clock with 10 other people who we're going to be looking at a rebrand, and we've got a whole plan and organization, and I started with all the logos from every other state's association throughout the nation. So that gives us a talking point. I put together a proposal and a plan such that we would, people who cannot be at the meeting at 2 o'clock can still participate in the process. So I have basically a goal of 30 days being able to submit, have the committee meet and be able to have something for the board. Probably within 30 to 40 days, at least to look at. And we may have to wait till the board meeting to approve it. But that's our plan. My New Year's Eve resolution got moved 90 days, but we're making it happen and we'll be forward and on track. So thank you all who agreed to jump in and say, I want to be part of it in some fashion.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions for David? Seeing none, we'll continue down. Thank you, David. Next up is membership, Mel. And you're muted, Mel.
I don't have anything really to report.
Okay, any questions for Mel and membership? Okay, thank you, Mel. Moving on, nominations. That I believe is still me. Nothing new to report. I'll be checking in after this meeting with the folks who had agreed to be who had agreed to be on the slate. So as a reminder, we will have 5 board positions of a full term open, as well as a 1-year term to fill the remaining year of Donna's term. If you remember our business at the annual meeting in September, which feels like a lifetime ago, was to extend the 2019 program year through 2020 and pick things back up at the 2021 annual meeting. So we'll have that. So there are 6 slots, and I believe there are 6 people to fill those 6 slots. So look for more on that in March at the annual meeting. But we'll be following back up with those folks to make sure that that is still something that they're interested in doing. So other than that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Seeing none, we'll move right along into old business. There was no old business at the top of the agenda. Does anyone else have any old business to take up? Seeing none, we'll proceed into new business. I have 3 items of new business, and the order in which I received them was the newsletter, the awards committee, and the events committee regarding our festival convention in March. So Loeen, you have the floor if you'd like to discuss the newsletter.
But I know can everybody hear me? I know it's been a very challenging year for our theaters ever since March 17th. And I can understand why perhaps no one submitted any news to me, but it's pretty hard to put out a newsletter if you don't have any news items. And I've tried a couple of times to beg people to send things to me. I don't even hear from board member theaters. I don't get like a president's message from Jason, maybe. I get the Minnesota Association newsletter, and it's quite nice, but the president always has a very nice message in it in each issue. And I think it still would, I used to always put the minutes in, and I don't ever get the minutes. I think it's at least one other way that our members can have access to that without going to the website. And even if you're not active, and some of us are, WCCT isn't, but we've done a few things. I mean, what are the members doing in the meantime? What have they tried to do? What's been successful? What mitigation efforts are they making? How are they going to reopen? If they're streaming, how does that work? You know, what tech are they learning? I've done a lot of AACT webinars and roundtables. If you've done those, you know how really, really good they are. David, I've seen you on several of those. I think our national group has really done a tremendous job of keeping us in the loop of theater. We had like two pop-up theaters this summer outdoors, and it just felt so good in my heart to be able to do theater, to have people out there again. And so none of us want to lose that feeling, and we're just all very eager, but it's like, okay, when can we do it? So I'm not a member of the board, but I do feel very out of the loop, and it's hard to maintain my job when I don't have cooperation. So if you want somebody else to do it, I will turn it over. Otherwise, I'm just begging for help.
Louine, I totally forgot to send that information to you. I have something already written up about what Newton is doing, so I will get that to you.
Okay. I did put in the blurb about John's passing. I put his obituary in. That was very shocking.
I wonder, Louine, if those questions that you explained to us, if you could send that out to all members and then ask them, maybe put it in the form of a survey, and then share the survey results with us, with the members in the newsletter.
Okay, good idea, Helen. Thank you.
That way, then if one theater is doing something, another one isn't, that could spark an idea from them. And it's also a way of celebrating and recognizing the theaters who have put forth effort.
And this is Cheryl. Louine, if you need help developing a survey, I'd be glad to do that. Help you put one together electronically. And I apologize too. I've been meaning to send an article to you about Ankeny. We've been doing bi-weekly Readers Theater since last May. But, you know, I don't know, in defense of the silence, I would say so many of us feel overwhelmed with all of the things that we have to manage. And yes, the theater and its functioning is important to me, but I feel like I'm scrambling just to get done what I have to do for my local theater and my work and my family. So I apologize, but I think we need to give theaters some, and maybe Iowa theaters, all of us need a little bit of grace, and maybe this wasn't the perfect time to go to a monthly newsletter. I know that's what we want for our organization eventually, but maybe that's just not realistic through this pandemic.
Thanks, Cheryl. I will get in touch with you about a survey then.
And Cheryl, we have those tools available in-house to us.
Yes.
Yeah, so keep me in the loop.
Great, will do.
And Louine, what do you want your production cycle to look? I don't think anybody wants to take this over because you do such a wonderful job with it. So thank you for every newsletter that you've put out so far. Yes, Helen, claps for Louine. What sort of a production cycle are we looking at, generally speaking?
Well, I mean, I can do whatever you want. I know through this whole affair, the months just seemed to melt together. There was January, February, and then it just became one long month. And the months go by fast, and sometimes I go, oh, I didn't get one out, even though I have it on my calendar to do so. And so, I mean, if I have stuff, I'll do it monthly, and otherwise I'll do it as there's information to put out there. But
just for my own personal, I'll put a reminder on my calendar so that you get something from me every
Okay.
month.
I do get the list of members every month, and I think
Okay.
that comes automatically from you and Gerard maybe, but
It comes automatically out of our membership system. Yep. And if you want a broader one, I think it would be good to send a broader one to anybody who's ever been a member this first time in 2021, so that we can remind people to renew their memberships. And I'll get all the write-up for that to you as well.
I mean, is the format that I'm using, is that okay?
I think it's okay. Louine, do you want, when I send you this, do you want what we had done in 2020, you know, from March on, or do you want just what we're doing now?
Well, I think even in the 2020 stuff, it's like, how did you get through the year so far? You know, the pandemic year.
Okay.
Which doesn't seem to have an end.
All right.
So Mel, it might be really interesting just talking about how Newton came to the decision to do what they're doing.
Okay.
And then how has that impacted, and what's the attendance been? How has it gone?
Okay, I can do that because we've done shows since, you know, we were in the middle of Jekyll and Hyde. And of course, we couldn't do that, but we've done a one every, you know, we've done 3 last year, and we're already on we're doing 1 this year already. And have plans for 3 more for the rest of 2020.
One of the questions I'd like to see on that survey is, what glitches have you encountered and how did you solve those problems? I think that would be helpful to other theaters.
Yeah, one of the things that we've had to change some of our you know, productions. We were going to do Something Rotten in, you know, in September, in this next slot, but you know, we couldn't with the orchestra and stuff, so we've changed it, and we've changed a couple last year too. So, and we were going to do Tug of War, and John Dugan was going to be the director of that, and that kind of has fallen through since we don't have John any longer. So we're making changes on things. So, but
Yeah.
we're still keeping going.
And I think those would be helpful, particularly technology and how you implemented things using technology would be helpful.
Yeah, we've all learned a lot. We're nothing but flexible.
And Louine, thanks for hanging in there with us.
Yes, I second that.
You're a treasure.
Yeah,
Yep,
we don't want to lose you.
No, we appreciate what you do. And I do enjoy the newsletters when I get them. It's just in between my thoughts kind of stray. So thank you.
And David, it looked like you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yes, I do have a request because I work best with really hard deadlines. Is it possible, Louine, that you could put together just a list and says, here's the dates that I absolutely need an article so that I can get the newsletter out? And if you did that each month, or if we go back to quarterly, whatever, if I have that hard deadline, I can stick that in my calendar and I will meet it, because I think you're right. As board members, we owe it to the community to share what we're doing, even if nobody else is up to it. And so that's my one request. The second thing, there was a quick story to share, and the fact that we've been doing shows, and I've actually gotten more grief over my gender neutral restrooms. People said, is this permanent? Because if it's permanent, I'm not coming back to the theater. And I'm like, no, we're only doing 1 person at a time. It doesn't matter who goes in the room. Go in, we'll clean it, come back out. But no grief over masks or anything else, but the gender neutral restrooms have given me grief. So can't account for people. I just thought I'd share.
Your P policy.
That's right.
I would think that quarterly newsletters would be sufficient. And that might coincide with when the board meets, or the newsletter come out after the board. So if anything came up at the board meeting, you'd have 2 or 3 weeks to add that to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think quarterly right now would be good enough. And then when everything goes back to normal, then, maybe start weekly ones again.
I would,
Do you still appreciate having the calendar of what productions are going on? Because if I don't get that, I go to everybody's website and look. And that does take a lot of time. So,
And you
Louise,
shouldn't have to do that.
I agree, Helen. You shouldn't have to do
Right.
that. If they're not reporting, then it just doesn't get done.
I mean, over the years, that's always been my favorite part of the newsletter, other than finding out what people are doing. But I've got it all in one place, and I liked going to other theaters to see productions. And it's all in one place then.
so we have a really great, oh, go ahead, George, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, would it be possible, Loeen, to send them, for the ones that aren't reporting to you, to just send them an email or send a bi-weekly email asking them to provide an update to the website, or to give it to
Okay.
you directly? I'm just looking for anything that might give you better information here without having to do all that legwork, because that is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like with with MailChimp, I can schedule when they get sent. So yeah, that'll work.
I don't think you want to send bi-weekly. I mean, I think we have to be respectful of the volume of email people get, but if we could send it, I think you used to do that, didn't you, Louine? Like maybe a month before a newsletter was coming out, at least to board members, you sent a reminder that you're working on it and the newsletters would be out soon. You'd like to include their information.
Okay, will do.
And I'd also like to mention that we have a really great calendar tool on our website now that we are paying for. So perhaps in that reminder, we could include the link for folks to enter those. And then I've got a report from that set up, Loeen, too, or it's a view where you can just download everything as a spreadsheet, and then that would make your job very easy.
Okay, but people have to submit them to
Right.
that.
Yeah, just like they have to submit them to you.
Just doesn't go out there without doing that.
Yeah, they're-
I'm listening to all of this thinking, wow, we have a really good initial conversation to have when we have our breakout regional meetings on the 27th of March. Because I think that personal contact with the board representative for the regions and the contacts with the theaters in our region, we can really work on this and encourage them to participate in this way. And that might be more helpful than the general less targeted things that we've tried in the past. I'm encouraged.
Okay, any other items for the newsletter discussion that we've been having?
Thank you,
I think this-
everyone.
Yes, and thank you, Loeen. I think your work does not go unnoticed, and it is deeply appreciated. And I'd like to apologize on behalf of the association that our communication hasn't always been the best. So thanks for sticking with us. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Louis.
And thank you, Cheryl Clark, for the reminder that yes, everyone is busy and we should all stretch our grace just a little bit as we all anxiously await a safer time. Okay. Well, looks like Lorraine's already got her first injection, her Fauci ouchie, as I've heard it called. Okay. Next up, the new business I have is from the awards committee. John, would you like to make a motion or have a discussion and see what motions come out of that?
Yeah, let's start with a discussion. I just didn't know what anybody else thought about how to do the awards ceremony. Obviously, we're not having a full-blown awards ceremony for 2020. The idea was just to give a certificate to those theaters that were reviewed in January, February, and early March of 2020. Anybody else have thoughts, suggestions?
I do like the suggestion your group had of 1 to 3 minute video highlight of what you have been able to do. And I don't think, I know you were concerned perhaps about time, but I don't think we're going to get 40 submissions. I think we'll be maybe get 10, maybe 10 submissions of what theaters have been doing. And that might be live productions, it might be virtual productions, it might be it might be something we haven't even thought of, but I think it's really important that we do allow those who want to share what they've been doing an opportunity to do so.
And if we want to pursue that route, video production is my current side hustle outside of my real job.
Good, because that was a concern of mine. It's like, while I enjoy taking on new endeavors, I do not have the time right now between work and family and other obligations. There's just no way that I would be able to give it the pizzazz and professionalism that we would want it to look like. So it would just end up being me playing 10 or 12 different videos and saying, hold on, okay, wait, here's the next one, I hope. So
yeah, and 10 to 40 videos would be easy for me to slipstream in between now and convention.
I still think from January to mid-March, those theaters that actually did do their productions and submit them and that we reviewed, I think they should get a certificate. The theater needs to get a certificate for that production.
Of course, I wasn't saying not. I was saying then for the rest of the year, those theaters that have tried anything, no matter what that is, should have the opportunity to say, yeah, we tried.
Okay, yeah, I just think those ones that were reviewed in those 2.5 months needs to have some recognition.
So could we then maybe possibly have two motions here? One is to, to deal with the shows that were reviewed, and one is to invite theaters to submit a short video of other things they have done that were not included in those?
Yes, would you like to make the first motion, Norman?
Sure. I would like to move that as part of the convention, that all shows that were reviewed, that actually had reviews submitted, be awarded a certificate of completion, if you would, just for the entire production, not individual nominees.
Thank you, Norman. Is there a second? David gets the second. We have a motion on the floor to recognize at convention those shows that were reviewed in 2020 with a certificate to the production, not the individual contributors. I'll now open the floor for discussion.
Good. I'd like to suggest a clarification, because there were shows that we're seeing, but they weren't recorded or as reviewed because we shut down that website or we didn't do something with the website. So I don't know how to clarify that, because I never filled out any forms for the shows I saw. So I just, the way Norm suggested it, it felt like it had to be submitted into the computer in order to get the certificate. I just wanted to make sure we honored anybody who we showed up and even attended the show. I mean,
that was submitted by the participant for review.
Gotcha.
Not submitted by the reviewer, submitted by the organization.
Perfect. That's what the clarification I was looking for. Thank you very much.
Good clarification. Thank you, David. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of recognizing a convention by a certificate to the production, not the individual contributors, those shows that were submitted by member theaters and reviewed by ICTA board members, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. And I would assume that, John, your group will take care of getting those certificates made, and you can coordinate with Mel to see who had signed up and who went to shows and things like that. I know that I had sent Mel some time ago that the list of shows that had been submitted. So
Could you send that to me again, Jason?
sure,
Because I don't know where it's at on my emails, and then I will get right away and get that done.
sure, I can send that to you, no problem.
All right, thank you.
Making a note here. Okay, and then there was a second piece of business that perhaps requires a motion. Does anyone have a motion to provide?
I'll make a motion
Go right ahead.
that we solicit up to a 3-minute video from theaters who would like to share whatever they've been doing to keep their theater alive in 2021.
Thank you, Cheryl. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, John seconds. Discussion.
Okay,
Louise?
Cheryl, I have a question. Do we want that for the ones that after we stopped the reviewing part of it in 20? To finish those out and then do what people have already done in 20? I mean, in 2019, after March, and then do what we've done in 20 already?
Well,
I
no,
think you're getting your dates mixed up.
yeah,
So March of
talking-
2020 to now.
right.
I think
March
I
of-
think that video can that's me personally. The video could be anything that they've done between March of 2020 to now to keep themselves going and alive, and what they've done
Mhm.
creatively.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said 20 or 19, but it's
Yeah.
20.
Louise had a good idea. Louise, do you want to present your question? Louise?
It might be a alternative is to do like a PowerPoint. I
I
can do
think
that.
that-
I can't do video.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that's much easier. And I know on another state board I'm on, we attempted to put together 3-minute videos, and it's very complicated unless you've got the technology. But PowerPoints can be put together pretty quickly. So I really like that idea, Louise.
And
We also need to consider the legality of moving video, since it's illegal unless you have streaming rights, and even then it gets more complicated.
Oh, I'm not saying, maybe that the motion needs to say this. We don't want footage of productions that were licensed. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody from your theater to tell or show us what you've been doing, but not like clips of actual performances. No, we don't want to go there. Or I
Well, and
don't.
we could have it open to the theaters that want to present information by PowerPoint, by video, leave it up to them. And a variety might be nice.
And
Just making sure, Jason, is that okay with multiple forms
Format.
of communication to put together in one entity?
not a problem at all.
So it
I-
could be.
I
still
have the
photos.
tools. I have the
Okay.
technology.
I just wanted to ask that, no, it's much easier if they're all PowerPoint, or no, it's much easier if it's all video. So I just wanted to ask,
Okay.
Just a montage.
right?
Mhm.
Oh, I like that word.
I learned it from the impeachment hearings.
Ah. And
Never
David,
mind.
David, did you have something you wanted to say? I thought I saw a hand.
No, I
Oh,
just wanted to make sure we clarified that it did not matter which media we received it in. We just limited to about 3 minutes worth of time,
certainly.
just to respond to the various levels that people can bring to their. to
And
their display.
I do agree that we need to have a disclaimer in there that any video or entity that has recordings of actual licensed material will not be shown.
No,
It will be sent back.
we
I
could.
do not want us to be in any way, shape, or form in
No.
legal trouble for something that we're trying to do as a positive to
Mhm.
promote live
Uh,
theater in the state of Iowa.
Still photographs would be fine. Those are always
Right.
legal. but not videos.
Right.
Or if they wrote, what if they wrote a disclaimer or a letter that says, this is an original work that you're allowed, that I have permission for you to display, would you accept that? Or are we just going to say no moving video of any kind?
I think it's simplest to stay with no. I mean, because then I feel like somebody in our organization would need to indeed verify that it's an original work that's not open to copyright. And no, I just think it might be easier to say still photographs or not.
I'd like to
video.
think that we have everybody in the state that would trust us, that we secured the correct documentation without creating any issues. But we're all aware of, there are probably at least one in every community that if they saw it, they would love to make a stink about something.
Mhm.
I would be that stink for us, because
Yeah.
as the person who puts the video together, I'm the first
Right.
person with the
Yes.
hammer. So
Yes.
yeah, no. I
So,
think sticking to no
John?
production film would be the best choice.
So John or Cheryl, do you want to send me the wording for that so I can get it out to the members and they can start working on it? Because they have about, what, 6 weeks?
Right.
And I'm going to look at the calendar and set a drop dead date for receiving that. Our convention is the 26th and 27th. I want videos no later than March 18th, Thursday, March 18th.
John, perhaps you and I can bounce some emails back and forth yet today or tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yep.
And get something to Louine by the end of the day tomorrow at the latest. Does that
Perfect.
sound okay? Is that all right? Does that work for you, Louine?
I was just gonna explode.
Ask and you shall receive, Louine.
That's the kind of friend you are, Louine.
Pardon?
We rally. We just rally anytime you shake our cages.
And I will create a place in our Google storage for folks to drop those.
Perfect.
And just for a timing thing, as we move into the next new business after this, a reminder that 10 3-minute videos will be about 34 minutes. So we may want to make sure that we say 1 to 3 minutes and that we have the right to edit any submission.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion on the video project that events and awards are undertaking? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of soliciting member theaters for an up to a 3-minute video for what they have done to keep theater alive during the pandemic, with the restriction of no filmed productions, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, thank you folks for that. Next we have, Cheryl, you've got new business around the event in March. The floor is yours.
Yes. And I didn't submit anything, I guess, in writing other than what I emailed to you. Is there a way we can share that?
You start talking and I'll get it pulled up.
Okay, all right. David and I have been communicating and working on a bit on Friday's, the March 26th management conference. And that has come together pretty well. We are looking at all virtual, of course, noon to 4 on Friday. And we have secured Christopher. No, I don't have the document in front of me. It starts with a G.
Getty.
Getty, yeah, with Venice Theater in Venice, Florida. And he and David are going to construct the afternoon around inclusivity issues and diversity issues. And David may engage some other folks in being part of those presentations too, but he and Christopher will work all that out. I have every confidence that it will be a wonderful event. And then Friday evening, optional activity, David has offered to give at no charge video on demand links to 2 Des Moines Playhouse productions that will be opening soon, and they'll actually be closed before our convention, but he has permission to archive those. Stuart Little and Leaving Iowa. So folks who register for the convention will get those links, and they could spend Friday and Saturday evening in their own homes watching the 2 events, or they could watch them all in the same evening, whatever they prefer. And then Saturday, you'll see on the screen, I'm working on, and I've done just a couple of emails with the committee and just haven't had time to communicate very thoroughly with the committee. So they're just seeing all of this put together too for the first time. 9 to 3:30 is what I have planned right now. We can extend some of the things in the afternoon, the annual meeting segment, if we need to now, based upon our possible 30 minutes of video presentation. But the first workshop would be Audrey Yoakley from Chicago, who was going to come to our convention last year. And her focus is stage intimacy, which face-to-face she would have done work with directors and actors on incorporating stage intimacy principles into actually directing and leading in stage presentations. But her focus now virtually will be a discussion, question and answer kind of format with theaters on why is it important for us to consider the implications of safety and intimacy discussions in our theater. And that would come right after some kind of welcome. I just thought, and we can eliminate a welcome if we want to, but I thought it might be nice to start the day with Jason and or others, or some kind of cheerleading session to start the morning, get us off on the right foot. And then there would be a break, and the second session isn't thoroughly planned out, and I am open and would welcome any suggestions. But the focus of the next workshop segment would be surviving the COVID pandemic and how to get our theaters back up and operating. And the one speaker that I do have secured for a panel for that is Jeannie Noble from the Iowa Arts Council, who told me that they were redoing all of their grants for 2021 to be COVID relief. But you guys, others probably got this as well. I see we just got the announcement from Iowa Arts Council, and the deadline for registration or deadline for submitting grants is before our convention. So I need to reconnect with Jeannie and make sure that what she is able to share with us is still timely. If it's not, then then I don't have any secured speakers yet for that. But again, I'm open to ideas, and I would hope that within the next 2 weeks, we'll have 2 or 3 or maybe 4 people for that panel. Then a lunch break, which we face-to-face had planned for some roundtables. We still could do that and use breakout rooms, give folks a 10-15 minute break to grab their lunch in their own location, and then have them come back to have breakout rooms. If that were to be the case, I would recommend extending that lunch from 12 to 12:45. So we would have 25 minutes or so in breakout roundtable discussions. Then in the afternoon, we have Tracy Reitz and Kristen, and I have misplaced her last name, but they're from Story Theater Company. And they're going to focus on youth programming, and again, a focus of how can we incorporate that in our theaters and work through this pandemic and keep our programming going. That would be followed by our annual meeting. Now, what's not on this list would be after the annual meetings would adjourn, we would have breakout sessions of regional meetings. And then maybe I would thought as a finale, we would do some kind of celebration. And John and his committee can name that celebration, whatever they want, but you folks have come up with a great idea for the awards ceremony. And that would be the end of our convention. So I'm looking on behalf of the committee for approval of what we've done, what we've got scheduled here, suggestions perhaps, and also cost. And when I wrote this, I put $20 question mark. And then also recognizing that I don't know that we want to charge our members to attend an annual meeting. So if they're not attending the rest of the convention, they'd certainly be eligible to attend the annual meeting and the award segment without paying. But this morning it occurred to me, maybe we want to do like we've done for membership, pay as you can or pay what you can on a donation basis. So I'm open to suggestion, looking for a motion on how we'd like to handle a fee.
Well, could we also make that as a donation to the Iowa Community Theater Relief Fund?
Oh, good idea.
Just a way to tie it together?
I like that.
Cheryl, I have one administrative thing that we need to consider. Part of our event each year, we're required to hold a short board meeting for the purposes of electing officers.
Oh, yes, you were so right.
So we'll want to work that in at some point, because usually we like to announce that at our celebration that evening and welcome the new
Yes.
board members and those types of things. So
Right. Thank you, Jason. And I did not schedule an awards ceremony or an awards event in the evening. And if you all think that would be better than running it in the afternoon, I'm completely fine with that. I just tacked it on at the end.
from a personal perspective, in terms of running things on the tech side, we may be served better by doing the annual meeting at the end of the day and then regional meetings, and then taking a break so people can grab dinner, and then having that event after dinner, just because that gives people, folks, time away from a screen. And we can certainly do that in the way that we did last year, where it's live streamed on YouTube and people are just watching.
Yes.
And then the folks that are in Zoom are the people that are presenting as part of that. But that would be my suggestion, just from the administrative side, with all of the technology that we're going to have, maybe taking a break.
Yes, and I think that's a wise decision. You running the video portions for us, that it'll be good for us all to have a break, have to regather our thoughts before we do the next segment. And would the board like to see that evening event at like 6:30, 7?
David, go ahead.
I'd like to offer just a little counter thought to that, with the idea that going to a theater and going to a conference and going to a convention is really cool, and you're prepared for the whole weekend, and you say to yourself, I'm going to do everything because that's what I'm there for. But when you're sitting in your own living room and you're sitting surrounded by your kids and your families and your dogs and your food and your television and your Zoom, I'm just curious how many people we think actually would participate from basically 9 to 7:30, 8 o'clock, or a long day like that, even with the breaks. I'm wondering how many we would lose and or whatnot. I just offer that as a recognition that it's a different kind of conference than we've done in the past.
I know Louine and I have another commitment, which is our district Rotary convention that weekend also.
Mm.
So for myself, I'll have to be bouncing back and forth because I've got some commitments with Rotary as well.
Another option would be that we could do the awards ceremony on Friday evening and then end our day Saturday with the annual meeting, the breakouts for regional meetings, and then the brief board meeting to elect officers.
How are we going to do the breakout sessions?
Oh, I do breakup sessions all the time with my teaching.
Okay,
So it's not a difficult thing to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
Zoom has it down to a science now. It's easy to do.
And we can do that all ahead of time if people are registered, so that all you have to do is click a button and everybody goes
Yep.
where they belong.
Yeah. I would say from my personal standpoint, I like the idea of the Friday night sort of being the little bit of the party celebration and then Saturday being a bit of the business, especially for those who transition and chose to participate in Friday as well. I just think it just, I don't know. I mean, I love going to a convention. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed my time in Newton and I enjoyed my time in the other place that I got to go to. But on Zooming, sitting in my living room, I'm going to have a different attitude. I'm just sharing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would posit one other idea that just jumped into my brain. We talked about breaking out over lunch. Could that be the time that we break folks into regions and they could eat together and
Mm-hmm.
talk about regional stuff? And so then all we're doing at 2 is the annual meeting and then the brief board meeting to elect officers.
I think that's an excellent idea.
I like that idea because I'm thinking of Northwest Iowa. I don't know how many member theaters would be coming to the conference. So
Yeah.
we can make that determination that day to combine regions.
Good call out, Helen. Okay, so I think we're at the point where we want a motion. I think we want at least one motion to handle the cost and how we want to handle that. It's been suggested by Gerard. It's been suggested from the chat of the committee that it's a pay what you can. And Gerard has mentioned that as a donation to the Iowa Theater Relief Fund. So I would entertain a motion on cost and then we can handle the schedule thereafter.
I have a question. Do we
Sure.
anticipate any direct costs to ICTA for this event?
At this point, I haven't communicated yet with Christopher about a fee that he might have. I do know that our speaker from Chicago would like $100 for her participation in a workshop. That's the only cost at this point.
I'm going to say Christopher and I have not exchanged fees. I've suggested it a couple of times. I would like us to be in a position to, even if we just made an honorarium to him in recognition, without, even if he said, no, I don't need a fee or anything.
Sure.
I feel like we owe him something.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that if we structured this as a donation to the Iowa Theater Relief Fund as your attendance fee, we have the cash on hand to be able to cover those honoraria comfortably.
So can I make a motion that we set up like $350 as a reserve to cover any kind of fees that come up?
Sure can. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second that.
Let's give that one to Aaron. I had about 4 at once. Any further discussion on that?
That was Gerard and Aaron.
Correct. Okay, seeing no further discussion, the motion on the table is to set up a $350 reserve to cover speaker fees for our March event. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, so we've set up speaker fees. Sorry, I have a little visitor here. It's almost nap time. Say hi, Arthur.
It's almost my nap time too.
Right? Sleep when the baby sleeps. Okay, so next up, I think we should knock out the attendee fees. I'd entertain a motion to cover that item as well.
I make a motion that we have a flat fee of $20 with the proceeds from registration going to the fund that we had mentioned, subtracting the expenses.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to set a flat fee of $20 with proceeds going to the Iowa Theater Relief Fund, less our financial expenses. Is there a second? Mel seconds that. Discussion.
I think for my sake, I think you'll have a better turnout if it's if we don't have an actual charge, but we suggest a $20 donation, but it's a pay what you can instead of a flat fee. That's my 2 cents. I think you'll get a better turnout.
I'd be willing to amend my motion to reflect that, John.
Mel, are you comfortable with that friendly amendment as the seconder? Okay. And so now it reads with a suggested donation of $20, but pay what you can. Okay. Any further discussion on that item? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of setting the fee structure for our event in March as a suggested donation of $20, pay what you can, with all proceeds less expenses going to the Iowa Theater Relief Fund, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, last we have to deal with the schedule, and lots of things were in motion. Cheryl, do you want to recap at a high level what we have captured and make a motion for us, please?
Sure. Friday's management conference will run from 1 to 4. Awards ceremony or celebration would take place at 6:30 on Friday evening. And Saturday's conference would run from 9 to 2 with the annual meeting and the board meeting at 2, taking whatever time we need for that, an hour and a half. And then the convention would adjourn after that.
Okay. Do I have a motion that captures the schedule that Cheryl has described?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, David moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
We'll give it to Norman. I saw the eyes before I saw the voice. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the schedule as described by Cheryl signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, that takes us to the end of booked new business for today. Is there any other new business from the floor? Yes, David.
I'm willing to request that this be moved to the next board meeting if possible, but I'd like us to have a little bit of clarification on this Iowa Relief Fund. What's the criteria? What's the distribution process? I just feel like we've collected some money and we don't really have any explanation as to what we're going to do with it. And I do think it's important we have something if we're just about to get some infusion of cash. So I'd like to, it can be tabled to the next board meeting. I just wanted it to be on our record of we need to discuss it.
Sure. I think that's good to put on the next meeting. I believe that we did have a working group assigned to that. I will have to review the minutes and look to see who that was.
Also, Jason, I think that would be good information to put in the newsletter. So if someone could get that information, a summary of it, maybe that would also generate individual members to contribute if they knew exactly what it was for, or theaters apply for funds if they need it.
Sure. Good call
Like
outs.
Marshalltown Community Theater, I wasn't aware how much damage was done to their facility from the derecho. I mean, it's really bad. And so I don't know if that's the kind of relief or if it's just like we're to be able to keep operating on a normal basis.
Yeah, we haven't decided.
Salaries or whatever. But.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I think that would be good to include as we open up this. So I will dig into old minutes over the last year this afternoon and reach out to that working group directly. Is there anybody here that would like to be part of that working group if you're not already? David? Okay, I'll include you as well.
And just a side note, if there's someone from that work group that feels like we have a handle on sharing information, that could be part of the panel in that second workshop segment for convention where we talk about what we can do to recover from COVID.
Sure. Good call out. Okay, any other new business from the floor? I'd like to share a couple of items since we've reached the end of new business here. The first is, as we all know, and I shared with you all, John Dugan at Newton Community Theater passed away earlier this year, which was a shocking loss to so many. John and his wife were regular attendees and always very active in our events. And he was very, very active in Newton. I did, on the behalf of our organization, send flowers for his visitation and funeral. So those went there at the end of January to his celebration of life. So if you have the opportunity, make sure that if you haven't already, reach out to the family and just check in. I know that he leaves behind his wife and children. So a tough time, particularly as we're all having tough times. I just want to keep that in front of everyone's mind because John loved theater and he loved this organization and he was very active in it. So it's a big loss, not only for Newton, but also for theater in Iowa. I'd also like to share that though she wasn't able to be here today, I'd like the record to show that since this is Cheryl Zieringer's last meeting, that we recognize her for her years of dedicated service to the organization. And she's going on to do other things, whether it's theater or grandchildren. I know that they have a lot of her time right now. So we're thrilled that she was with us for as long as she was, and wish her well into the future. Is there any other new business?
Maybe part of the awards thing might be to mention that about Cheryl.
Great. Yep, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Awesome
Louie.
idea.
Okay, any other business that the association needs to take up at this time? All right, I will remind everyone of our forthcoming convention, the 26th and 27th of March. Look for that information to be hitting your inbox very, very soon. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is the 8th of May, Saturday at noon, and we will be hosting our events virtually until such time that it is safe for us to regather in person. Any other input or words for the good of our association at this time?
I just want to thank everybody on behalf of the Newton Community Theater and John's family and everything for, you know, the flowers and things. They were beautiful. John has had heart problems since he was like 6 years old and has had open heart surgery at that time. They didn't even think he was going to live, you know, 3 more years. So he's had a good life and a lot of struggles and everything. And he is going to be thoroughly missed at Newton Community Theater.
Thanks, Jason, for taking care of the flowers. I think that's a lovely presence representing us at the funeral. And service.
I agree.
I do my best that anytime I hear news of someone that passes, that we're familiar with, that I try to send something along. So
Thank you. And thanks also to Cheryl Clark for heading up the convention. This is really a challenge and you made it look like easy work.
Thank you. I'll be calling on you.
okay, if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
This is Helen, yes. Second.
Helen, it's been moved and seconded. We have adjourned. So thank you, folks. We are adjourned.